Hey, this is Steve Stout with Vintage King and Focusrite, and today we're going to record a song with the Focusrite Clarett OctoPre and the ISA1. We're also going to use the plugins that come included in the bundle with the Clarett OctoPre. So we decided it would be kind of fun to do like a live recreation of one of my solo songs. So it's all based around this acoustic vocal live, there's no click or anything, performance, and then I kind of like layered in all the other parts that were on the original song through as if it was like a live scenario as I could. So it's all based around this acoustic vocal live pass, and there's three mics. The first mic is a vocal mic, which is this Peluso P414. The acoustic mic is an AKG D190. It's like a little old 70s dynamic mic. And then I actually plugged the pickup in off the guitar, and it's going through my old Princeton, and it's actually, I think it's going through like a JHS color box first. And the amp has a little bit of tremolo on it. So I have, if you can check out the panning here, I have the acoustic mic left, amp mic right. So there's some sort of like spatial thing happening. It's not just like super mono. So the first plugins that I've got going on here, these are on the actual vocal and acoustic together. Turn them off real quick so you can see. Sounds good too.
Open your eyes now.
So I think the biggest thing with these like acoustic vocal performances is trying to get them to just feel like they're filling the space, because there's such a mono type of thing. You know, you have your vocal and one acoustic, there's no double. So trying to find ways to spread that out through the field seems like an important thing to me. So this ozone imager is super helpful. It adds some stereo stuff. I don't even really know how it does it, but it never feels like really processed or anything, which is nice, just super natural. So I've got a little bit of that going, and then I have this lexicon style reverb setup, really just as like a slapback. I'm cutting it, like the mid range is the only thing coming through. I'm using like the pre-delay a lot here, and then I have a really, really short decay time. So let's go through these individual tracks real quick. The vocal track, I have these two plugins, another slapback basically, and then the Focusrite SC channel strip, which is super fun for adding that kind of input gain, like the console gain. And then I really like boosting like 1.5 on this. I am guilty of boosting lots of that on almost everything always. Just feels a little bit more like tapey and vintage to me. So I'm also cutting a bit of the high end out here. So
Open your eyes now.
this is without.
Open your eyes now.
It's obviously louder too, but
And tell me what you see. Open your eyes now. And tell me what you see.
just feels like with the compression too, it's adding like a little bit more weight to that vocal. So it's not just, you know, like a super kind of, I feel like trying to get a vocal to just feel like it's sitting evenly on top of a mix is always the hard thing. So here's just the acoustic mic.
Open your eyes now.
Definitely some bleed, but whatever.
Tell me what you see.
Again, just kind of some compression, that input gain, a little bit of, I think I'm actually adding some low end here because it's kind of a bright, you know, contained sounding microphone. And then this is the Princeton with that pickup. As you can see, I'm just trying to take some of that high end out because it just, you know, can feel a little bit too shiny or too clean on the top to me. So that feels like that kind of evens it out with this acoustic mic. Like if you turn it off. Might have flipped the phase, I can't remember. Oh yeah.
Open your eyes now.
Yeah, I think it might have been a little bit kind of out of phase there. So again, this is those three put together.
Now. And tell me what you see.
So that felt like a good start. And then on top of that, I started doing like the drums, which are just a brush and a little side stick guy. And I actually duplicated this entire set of inputs down to the there's a fill overdub later on in the song that is super kind of bonehead, but it comes in, you know, there's no real like cymbals or anything, so it's just kind of this affected, tapey kind of fill that keeps happening to make the chorus kind of pop a little bit. So the first drum pass here is just, I had to do some editing, you know, there's no click on the acoustic, so to get that to really line up took some time, but this is my setup here. I've got kick drum, snare drum, mono ribbon overhead, and then I have a pair of those D190s as like an XY pair. So this is the drum sound on its own. And let's turn this off. So it's not doing much, but it's kind of bringing out some of that kind of Motown sound out of the kick drum. I really like when a kick kind of sounds like that. The snare drum is the thing I ran through the ISA 1 just because I always feel like the snare drum is the most important part of the kit. On the acoustic vocal track, the vocal is what's going through that. But everything else on these drums are going through the Clarett Plus OctoPre, and I have the air mode engaged on all of them. So honestly, I set that up and was super pleasantly surprised just like how even and good everything sounded without really having to do anything, which was super nice. The only thing that's even on these drums individually is I flip the phase on the overhead. So other than that, it's just completely, each, you know, mic is just dry. So moving on to this tom kind of fill overdub here. So super, super silly. Just honestly kind of sloppy, but let's check out what we got going on here. So it sounded really good on its own. This is without anything. It sounds like a pretty clean kind of drum set, which a lot of times having an overdub fill where it's a bit more filtered in a kind of cool way feels like it just cuts and it sits in a different space better than just getting messy because it's just like, why are there two drum sets right now? So the first thing I did here was some imaging. Super subtle. Second thing, I added, again, the channel strip. So doing a lot of the filtering work here. As you can see, tons of 1.5, cutting a lot of the low end out here, adding some high end too, and just cranking up the gain, honestly, as high as it would go. And then a little bit of kind of like a slapbacky thing again. So to just almost like a space echo type of sound. And then as we'll go over in a second here, this mix checker plugin is really awesome. And it can kind of give you an idea of what your mix is going to sound like, you know, in the car or on headphones or on your phone, before having to bounce out and deal with all that stuff. So I actually did a funny kind of use of that, and I just put it on this drum pass as just like an effect. So this is like the disco pool. This is like if you were at like a pool with like a really bassy kind of speaker system. Adding that in just kind of felt like it contained it in a kind of cool way. So this is with it. So I honestly ended up putting that on, and then that's where all that boosting on the channel strip is happening. Was I put that on, went back, and then kind of boosted into that so that it would kind of all make sense. So if you hear the drums with that, it just doesn't feel like anything is competing with anything, which is really nice. Did some bass, super simple, just Music Master bass through my Princeton. There's a sub bass on that. It's just a Logic plugin without this. So that makes sense. Add this. Just trying to get those notes to really hold consistently and keep that weight in the same place. A little bit of sub bass because that's like a short scale bass. I have an old Wurlitzer, and I just used the 414 right on the Whirly speaker, and it was going through the ISA 1. I pretty much always try to add high end to the Whirly because I feel like there's almost just like so little. Again, I used the mix checker plugin just to try to put it, like the sound of it. I like the idea of it sounding like it was coming out of those speakers almost. So quickly I'll turn that off. It just kind of just sits in a different way. So then I have the lexicon verb on the right. This is fully wet. And this is actually a longer plate reverb. So this is not a slapback scenario here. So this is with the two of these together. So the last part here is this wah-wah kind of noodly guitar part that I had. So in the bridge, there's actually like a kind of a line that it follows that goes with the synth. So a little noisy again, but whatever. And just doing some minimal stuff here. I think the gate is actually on this, which is great because of the noise. So, and if I mute that reverb, turn it on. Super subtle, but so there's tons of bleed happening. There's, it's certainly not a like perfectly clean recording by any means, but I think it kind of adds. I think it's cool.
Oh no, it's on his way again.
I like to try to get those levels first. I honestly usually mix all the individual tracks with no mix bus on, and then kind of slowly add that stuff on at the end. Again, I like to just kind of add some of that stereo stuff since I'm not including a lot of like stereo synth parts or anything like that. There's really not a whole lot of like stereo information going in. So I'm trying to kind of like get a little bit of that at the end.
The smell of the coffee.
Just without it. And then I honestly just went through a preset here and then tweaked a tiny bit on this master desk. So I'll play without and with it.
The smell of the coffee. Get through the cold years. So wake up and smell the poppy.
So I feel like that's, you're just trying to get that last squeeze of like excitement out of it at the end. So you actually like your own song. Let's check out this mix checker plugin. So this is a fun way to kind of just see like, there's nothing worse than getting in your car and being like, oh man, how is that one part so loud? Like how is the kick drum so much louder than I thought it was? Or I feel like for me, it's a vocal thing a lot of times, or like a random cymbal or guitar part. Like on this song, I have a cymbal part in that tom layer in the second verse, and I had to bounce it a couple times to make sure that it wasn't too loud. But this really can kind of help you avoid some of those extra, mix 2, mix 3, mix 4 for just little stuff like that. So let's check it out on some of these different modes. So we'll go to maybe this verse.
Just a butt or two. Out for a toe.
I like the disco pool sound. It's my favorite. That's how I want to listen to all my music.
Just a butt or two.
Like there, I don't hear the bass as much. So that would, maybe I would add more mid-range in the bass to try to like get it to cut through smaller speakers like that is sometimes kind of a thing you can do. I kind of like that it's a little subbier on this song.
Just a butt or two. Out for a toe. Shooting it over the sun, don't go away.
Super cool. So the last step that I always do, and with the OctoPre, you actually get a trial of this. It's an online mastering suite called Lander, and it's a great tool for being able to just focus on mixing your song and not trying to focus on mixing and mastering it all at the same time. We always send it to a mastering engineer afterwards. So to try to decide what on the mix bus you turn off before you send it to the mastering engineer, it seemed like a kind of a rabbit hole. So what I do now is I get my mix sounding a way that I think best represents the song. It sounds exciting. It sounds professional, I guess, for lack of a better term. But still the vibe of it's right. And I'm not worrying about necessarily volume is like the one kind of thing that I don't super focus on. And I try to leave some room left for like compression and things like that. And then what I'll do is I'll bounce that and I'll put it through Lander. Sometimes I have to make adjustments and go back, but I think the benefit there too is that you're not sending your mix to the mastering engineer and then also having to go back. And that be the first time you hear stuff where you're like, oh man, the noise level is crazy. Like, I need to go denoise some things and I didn't hear it until it was brought up to mastering volume. So that's pretty much it here. So super simple, acoustic, some drums, bass, little synth, and then just a whirly part and a wah-wah part. Hope you enjoy the full performance.
Oh, yeah, it's on his way again. Just when I started